Hey guys, Stealth here. Today, World of Warships, and we are looking at the Vem and his gearing. The map is Mountain Range, Domination version, so we have 3 capture zones. And looking at the teams, you can see that this gearing is quite happy with his matchmaking. There's quite a few tier 8s, 1 tier 10 battleship on each team, 1 tier 10 destroyer on each team, some tier 9s, but mostly tier 8s. So if you let loose a gearing between tier 8s, then it could get slaughter. Now the gearing is quite a stealthy ship. It is quite good at staying hidden. It has a detectability range of 5.9, which means that with that low detectability you can sneak up on ships, jam torpedoes into their sides, and knife fight destroyers like virtually no other destroyer can. I think that maybe the Fletcher has a little bit less detectability, but this ship is still fantastic at staying hidden. Now the Vem races forward, captures B, or at least starts to attempt to do so, but the cap counter isn't moving, which means that we have another contestant in this area. Most likely one of the destroyers, so either a Fletcher or a gearing. Whichever it is, it's a really dangerous adversary. Fortunately, he has some backup. He has a North Carolina, an Iowa, a Mogami, and a New Orleans behind him. And we do know that the enemy ship is just about as stealthy as he is, so he's not really going to try and duke it out here just yet. He wants his backup to move up a bit further. Time to leave this capture zone and just head back to the safety of the fleet. We do know that there's an enemy destroyer in A, we just don't know quite which one it is. We have our Fubuki there, but the other destroyer, it could be either the Fletcher or the gearing. And the more we know, the better. In the meanwhile, we have an Atago up ahead, sneaking, or not so much sneaking actually, just moving straight up along the 8 column. Not sure what its intentions are, because the Atago is not that much of a tanky ship. It takes a lot of damage from virtually any angle. I mean, it's no British cruiser, but it's still not exactly a stealthy ship. So trying to sneak it through that line doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, we have our first torpedo salvo, 2x5, which leads me to believe that we might be looking at, yep, there we go, the Fletcher. A couple of rounds going in, the Fletcher is sitting there as a sitting duck, not moving. And as you can see, a gearing versus a Fletcher is not always a fair fight. I mean, it can be. It depends on who gets the first drop, but the gearing just has a bit more firepower. And he's just basically eating this thing alive. He has taken some damage, and the Fletcher's trying to escape into his smokescreen, but he's already used his torpedo, so he cannot really do that much. Unfortunately, Vem's support is nowhere to be found. They have all headed back north. So he's basically left dealing with his Fletcher on his own. And one of his teammates is saying, "Gearing, fall back, you have no support." But that is usually not how Vem plays. He's very, very aggressive in his US destroyers. He may, however, before he leaves, still get some shots on the Fletcher if it shows itself. Or, there's the Fletcher behind him, and there's the Amagi. Let's see if we can dump some torpedoes in the water. At least that would be my bet on this situation. Just try to get some torpedoes in. At a range of 6 clicks, with torpedoes from the gearing that are quite fast, and can be made even faster with the torpedo acceleration perk, you have some really nasty torpedoes. But the Amagi is almost bow on, which makes him a more difficult target. You can see he's trying to get a torpedo solution. He's just captured B, so we have that going. But, of course, the Fletcher is still here, and the Fletcher is in fact detecting him. Fletcher, however, left on 8,000 hit points. Should be an easy target right now. More damage continues to pour into the Fletcher. He's down to 5k. Vem slows down as fast as possible, gets put on fire, loses his torpedoes, loses his speed, his engine's knocked out. But we need to get this Fletcher out of the way. There we go, Fletcher down, fires out, everything else is repaired. The torpedoes on the stern looking like everything missed, unfortunately. Everything was just avoided by the Amagi. He probably expected the torpedoes and took evasive action. Now, he's still detected here. Not exactly sure, but he was probably still detected from that last couple of rounds that he fired, and this could be close, but the Atago just missed. Amagi tries to do a bit of a blind fire, and this is where you can really use that 5.9 detection range, because with it you just can slip away, and that's something that not every destroyer captain has learned, and that's, as far as I'm concerned, just makes all the difference. Being able to slip away and knowing when to slip away versus just continuing to fight and hoping for the best. And if you know when to slip away, then you're going to be getting better win rates, better damage. And I believe it was Sun Tzu who said that the warrior who knows when to fight and when not to fight will always be victorious. Now, I cannot guarantee that you'll always be victorious, but you're at least going to have more chances of survival than you would normally. Now he's trying to get a torpedo solution on the Amagi, but the Amagi is still maneuvering and his torpedoes aren't reloaded. So instead he decides to back off because the Amagi is probably going to be kept busy by the battleship over there, the Iowa, Der Geri, that we have over here. Now the team currently is spread out even on destroyers. We have lost the Fubuki, they've lost the Fletcher. I don't know what the hit points on the gearing are, but in the current state, the Vem can get one-shotted by the enemy gearing. He just has 493 hit points left. He dumps one torpedo salvo in the water, the other one is still on cooldown, and instead he keeps his distance. He does not want to get spotted, but this Amagi is capturing, so something has to be done. And moreover, the enemy team is sitting pretty comfortably at 547 points. Versus 306 points for Vem's team. Now torpedo salvo looks good. There we go. A couple of torpedoes in on the Amagi. Now he's just sitting in the smoke screen lobbing shells. And this is what gearings do very, very well. Sit there, lob rounds, hope that you put stuff on fire. And unless the Amagi is going to make a turn, it is going to be torpedoed again. Which means more flooding damage. Unfortunately, the Amagi has in fact slowed down and the torpedoes have all missed. So the Amagi trying to be, well, more or less bow on, but it's a battleship, it's not going to be very agile. He already popped his repair ability. Oh, Vem, don't get out of your smoke. He already popped his repair ability, so he cannot deal with these fires. And Vem is just racking up the damage on this ship. He has at least 2 fires going. Amagi tries to return fire. Doesn't quite get it. And notice how Vem is firing on different sections of the ship. Initially he was going for the superstructure, trying to get a fire going there. Then slightly more towards the aft, and I was going for the bow. He wants to get that third fire burning, with even more damage. Unfortunately, the bow doesn't take, well, virtually any damage currently. And with the friendly spotters all gone, he does not have any line of sight on the target anymore, so he has to get out. That's when we have a couple of torpedoes coming in, presumably from the Atago, off to the stern. He's not a real problem. Can we still pop some shells into this guy? He'd probably used his repair by now, and we have further torpedoes coming up from ahead. He once again resets the cap. The Amagi is still taking fire, but not taking any damage. Amagi basically trying to fire at random. Looks like the Io is also popping in now. There's another fire. See if the Amagi is going to put it out. Oh, this is a close... Yep, he put out the fire. If he can put him on fire again, then he should have a pretty decent chance at killing off this target over time. There's plenty of ships there. We have the Iowa, we have the Atago, we have a Bismarck to the stern. So there's plenty of stuff to shoot at. Now notice how he's wisely holding his fire. He does not want to give his position away, as the smoke is fading. And if he fires now, he's good as toast. So, time for another torpedo salvo, hoping that this Iowa is going to merrily stay on its course, not change direction, and take a torpedo salvo. He's presumably not looking at the Iowa now, but I think the Bismarck, looking at directions, the Bismarck would make more sense. And it looks like the Iowa is turning, so the Iowa is not likely to take any torpedoes there. the scores have been pulled back. We now have a 10 versus 8 game, with the 10 being on Vem's team. Looks quite a bit better, but the gearing is still out there. And the gearing is of course one of their best chances of capturing anything. Looks like the Bismarck has slowed down significantly and is no longer at any risk of running into these torpedoes, unfortunately. And with the A cap under their control and B and C under enemy control, something has to be done or they're going to start winning on points. Not exactly sure what they're talking about with the Yamato. But presumably we have an enemy Yamato camping all the way in the back. Now this is something where you have the gearing versus the Fletcher. The Fletcher loads its torpedoes a lot faster than the gearing does. The Fletcher could have probably already re-engaged with torpedoes versus the Iowa or the Bismarck. The Fletcher has those fast loading torpedoes. The gearing takes a lot longer. And that is something that you are starting to notice right now. Now notice how he's sailing pretty much directly for these ships. He's trying to close the distance on them. And once the distance is close enough, you have a better chance of hitting targets. So he's moving in, potentially positioning himself inside the B zone, as all of the enemy ships are leaving the area, and he's giving his position away. He knows that there is or the enemy team now knows that there is someone in B, and considering that they didn't see it sneak in, it has to be the gearing. But now he can once again casually re-engage all of the targets that he can spot. So firing at the Bismarck here, nice 2400 point salvo. Looking for a torpedo solution on Iowa, but once again the replay system doesn't quite show that. He fires one torpedo salvo, keeps one in reserve. Continuing to fire at the Bismarck. Notice how he's not sitting still in his smoke screen. He's wiggling back and forth a bit, making it more difficult for anyone who is currently looking at him and considering a random shot into the smoke screen to make it a lot more difficult for them to hit him. Once again, he's going for the superstructure, trying to get a fire set there. Someone else already got the fire in. And the torpedoes going for the Iowa are looking good. It looks like that Iowa could be in significant issues here. There we go. Bit more. Did they pass the Iowa already? There we go. They didn't. They were still on course. Iowa down. With that, the enemy team is running out of ships pretty damn quickly. They still have their Yamato. They still have their Tier 10 battleship. But what they don't have is that majority of ships, which can really, really help. Because now they just don't have as many guns firing back at them anymore. Vem over here is still trying to fire at the Bismarck. Bismarck is at 12 clicks out, so that means that Vem has advanced firing training on his gearing, because otherwise you just would not be in range. He continues to fire. And it seems that the Bismarck is just... it's a bit too far away. American guns have such a high arc that they are really difficult to hit with at long range. At least I never quite learned how to do it. I always prefer to sneak up, get close, get the shots, and get the kills. That's the way that I play the game, if I'm in a US destroyer. There is still one cruiser off his stern, not really a problem. He has another set of torpedoes standing by, so he launches that one. Torpedo reload is going to take well over 2 minutes, but the other salvo is ready. Once again, he stops firing to make sure that he doesn't give his position away, and gets another salvo going for the Bismarck, or at least considers it. But if this Bismarck does not change course, he's going to run into all the torpedoes that were fired at him initially, and I think that Vem is currently waiting here to see if that is going to happen. If it is, he doesn't have to waste his other torpedo salvo. And with that, he has all the torpedoes that he needs. There we go. Yep, one hit. Leaving the Bismarck on just 19,000 hit points. The Bismarck is flooding, however, which means that it's going to take on a lot of water and a lot of damage. And with that, he still has his other salvo of torpedoes. His smoke is back up. The gearing, correction, the Bismarck His flooding is now also taking all sorts of fire from the gearing itself, from the battleship behind him, and with that, no more Bismarck. And Vem gets another kill. So even though he is on 400, let's say 500 hit points for the majority of the match, after skirmishing with that Fletcher, he is still providing an incredible service to his team, capturing zones, trying to skirmish, dropping torpedoes in the water. He's just continuing to do damage after damage after damage, and with it, the team is winning. The team has lost quite a few more ships, but they still have a 3-ship lead. And this Bismarck, I'd say it's either sailing backwards, or it's just sitting still there, but I think it's slightly reversing. Switch to his torpedo armament there quickly to see what the ship was doing. He put him on fire 2 times there. Bismarck puts it out 3 times on fire, still on immunity period, so he is still not on fire. Just continues to rain fire onto the decks of the Bismarck here. It is, however, HE rounds, 127mm HE rounds that just don't do a ton of damage. But there's another fire, and with just 5,000 hit points left, the Bismarck will burn up. It just has no other options. But that's not the only ship that there's still out there. Fortunately, the enemy gearing has died, but there is another battleship there. And this is the Yamato, still on 32,000 hit points. The enemy also has a cruiser, somewhere back over there. I'm not exactly sure what his point is, but I think he was skirmishing over in sea and just completely lost direction and went off to the side of the map. He could come in later to escort or to ambush one of these battleships, the Kurfürst, but I don't think it's likely. Now there's just 3 minutes left in the match. The Yamato is at 7 clicks, which means that it is getting awfully close to the detectability of the Vem here. 6.6. 6.5. At 5.9 he gets detected. You do not want to get detected by a Yamato, because it is not the German type of secondary batteries, but it is still not something that you want to run into. Now notice how this Yamato is reversing. So the Vem fires his torpedoes slightly off to the rear of the Yamato, making sure that the torpedoes will absolutely hit him. No matter, it just needs 1 torpedo. Unfortunately, with the replay system, the follow torpedo animation still doesn't work. There we go, he's considering looking at the torps, and that's a kill. But Yamato has done quite some damage. The enemy has managed to sink 1 more ship. Correction, 2 more ships. The Vem gets Kraken, and with that there's just 1 Atago left. There is just little under 2 minutes left in the game, and I don't see how this Atago can have any further impact on the game. So now the Vem is moving off to the last capture zone, farming some more capture points, as well as making sure that the Atago does not suddenly pop up there. Atago seems to be more or less spotted by the other ships here, the Baltimore and potentially the Iowa, as it is right up there. But he cannot quite see it, unfortunately. So just pushing off to the capture zone, and basically spending the last couple of seconds of this game trying to capture yet another zone. Although with an average capture time of 50 seconds and about 60 seconds left in the game, I don't think he's going to be able to capture this zone. It is just too close. So instead, let's have a look at the battle results screen. And here are the results. Unfortunately, Vem only sent me this results screen, so I don't know what all the specific damages are, nor what his credits and XP modifiers or bonuses are. But 565,000 credits on a tier 10 game, and he was not even sporting the premium camouflage, so that was an immense amount of damage. Lots of captures, lots of defense especially, look at that, times 10 defended. That was all the damage that he poured into the Bismarck that was still trying to capture the zone, just didn't quite get it. He even shot down 1 aircraft, which must have been a spotter aircraft from one of the enemy ships. A couple of incapacitations of modules, 5 ships sunk, 8 set on fire, 5 incidents of flooding. Got a couple of notches towards his missions done, and 132,000 damage. If you are in a destroyer and you are on low health, don't think that you're suddenly useless and you have to go cower in a corner. It's just not true. You can still do a lot for your team. So make sure you try to cap, make sure you try to drop torpedoes in the water, but whatever you do, do not get spotted. Do not get shot at. Because while you're still alive, you can definitely make sure that you contribute to the team. So thank you, Vem, for sending in this game, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have a game that you want to send in, send it to stealth@stealth17gaming. Email address also in the description down below. Make sure you add the replay file, as well as a couple of screenshots of the personal score, team score, detailed report, and credits and XP. Because with that, I can make it a video and show off your gameplay on the channel. Anyway, thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon for more World of Warships.